Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeannie Borum, and I'm the host for today's webinar session. We're delighted to have you join us today. For those of you who have not watched or participated in a webinar prior, I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the format for today's session so you understand what to expect. First off, we're going to have our owners, our current owners in the business today, give an introduction of themselves, their backgrounds, their business, etc. And then we're going to turn the floor over to you as our participants to ask our owners any question that's top of mind for you. Each owner will give their own personal perspectives, as will Jack and Ken, as appropriate. And we will circle through the group as much time as needed to the top of the hour. So for Mark, Luke, and Joe, just start thinking about what your question is for today as we see that you're logged in so far. And if others join, we'll be adding them into that as well. So to get us started, what I'm going to first do is have the owners give an introduction to themselves. So let's start with Sasha. Sasha, can you share a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're located, and a little bit about your business?
Sure. My name is Sasha, founder of Lighthouse Sign Company. Started with my dad. We opened our doors in September of 2019. So we're coming up with 3 years now. Located in San Diego County, in Miramar area. And the facility, we're at about 1,600 square feet. So it's not a big facility, but I have to give credit to my dad, who's a very organized person. So we're making it work, but we're definitely overdue for, moving into a larger facility. We are 3 total. We were at 4. We lost an employee, so we're kind of a little bit behind on hiring. It's been a little bit difficult, but we should be at about 5 total, but it's been a little bit tough to hire these days. About subcontractors, we're using about 6 to 8 subcontractors for the projects we're working on. 2022 sales projections, we are on track to do $1.2 million this year. So far, as of today, our sales are $715,000 as of today. Biggest customer, company called Peak Renovations. They buy and remodel apartment complexes around America. So far, they've spent with us, $331,000 in about 2 years, and then in WIPs we have a little bit around $100,000 currently in projects, and an additional $150,000 coming up in the next 2 quarters with them. My background, I graduated from University of San Diego with a degree in business administration and finance. Worked in financial software for 7 years, and then my dad and I decided to get into manufacturing and landed on Signworld and never looked back. Very happy with my decision.
Wonderful, Sasha. And I have to say, I love you getting down to the dollars and cents of your WIP and your sales and your biggest customer. That's impressive. You know your numbers. That's great.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, let's move to Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, can you give an introduction, please?
Yeah, Mike Voling, Georgetown Sign Company. We're just outside of Austin, Texas. Nice and warm down here right now. Open doors November 1 of 2019, so perfect timing for the pandemic. Currently in a 3,000 square foot facility, and we are busting at the seams. Currently have 6 employees. I just recently lost 2, which kind of sucks, but I'll replace them. And let's see, 2022 sales projection, right on track for $1 million this year. And then biggest customer project recently completed. I'll talk about 2 different ones. Biggest individual POs, a little over 40 grand for some electrical signs at the local airport. And then I'm doing a bunch of fleet graphics, really full vehicle color changes and wraps for a electric contractor. I'm going to do 75 over the course of a year or 2. So far, I was looking at it, seemed a little short, but 125K so far this year. And then background, mechanical engineering degree, University of Colorado. Quickly learned I enjoy building businesses and markets a lot more than the products themselves. Got into transportation. So as you drive around different cities and stuff. You see those cameras looking at you at the intersection. That was me. It was there to get you through the light faster, not to give you a ticket, however. Early retired, got bored, went to the University of Texas, got my basically an MBA in entrepreneurism. Had so much fun with that when I ran into my doctorate program, and graduated from there end of about a month and a half ago now. So I've got my doctorate of business administration and strategy and innovation.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. So Dr. Mike, you're going to have a larger PO with this $184,000 bid that you're putting out the door today, right?
Yeah, we shall see.
All right, very good. Thanks for sharing. And our veteran owner, Jeff, can you please give an introduction?
Hi, everybody. My name's again Jeff Miller. My company name is Divine Signs and Graphics. We're in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is a northwest suburb of Chicago. We're in our 20th year. We started in 2003. We're in a 9,000 square foot facility, which is a building we own right now. We own right now. I hope to own it too tomorrow as well. But anyway, this is our third location that we've migrated to. We started off in 1,200 square feet, went to 3,000, and right now pretty comfortable in 9,000. We have currently 17 employees. Sales projection for 2022 is 3.1 million. Right now, our biggest customer that we've been doing some really nice $20,000 to $40,000 projects on every other month is a company called AIT. They're in the shipping logistics business. And the fun thing about that is we're also using other Signworld owners across the United States to help us install and manufacture the signage. And I came out of Motorola and the high-tech industry. I did international sales and business, traveled all over the world for 20 years and had enough of that. And then Ken Kint gave me my key to my rest of my life.
Very good. We're glad to hear. Thanks to you, Jeff. Jack, can you give an introduction for you?
Morning, everybody. Jack Werner. I joined Signworld back in 1995, 27 years ago as a Signworld operation. Started in 1,100 square feet with one employee. 10 years later, I was at 5,000 square feet, staff of 11, doing 1.3 million in sales. Back then, we were a little bit different. We were a retail banner shop with cut graphics, no digital printing, yellow pages, and really more of a local operation, not thinking about regional and national customers. Signworld morphed a lot over the years. I sold my operation for 10 years, joined Ken at the corporate office, learning his end of the business. Finished buying him out 8 years ago in July of 2014, and today I'm president owner of Signworld. When I answer questions today, if it goes more to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more towards training and policy, I'll speak from that perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. And none of us would be here today without our founder. Ken, can you give a background or an introduction for you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ken Kint. I founded Signworld 34 years ago in Honolulu, Hawaii, with my own sign company. I did very well right from the beginning. My largest customer was Bank of Hawaii. Over the years, probably did millions of dollars worth of business with them. All kinds of indoor, outdoor, and fleet graphic signs. The beauty of the business is very few employees and very few customers for the amount of money that you can make. That's the beauty of the business. I'm sure we'll get into that more later. Go ahead, Jane.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, now is the fun part to turn the floor over to our participants on the call today to ask the questions that are top of mind for you. Joe, I see you've already got 2 in the chat box here, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go with your question first. If it looks like you're already off of mute, share where you're from and go ahead with your question.
Sure, thanks, Jeannie. So I'm Joe Sponseller. I'm from Northern California. I live in Napa. And the one question I had for Sasha was, when you were talking about the subcontractors, I think you said you had 6 or 7. Were they? Do you find that that's job related, or do you find that these are folks that you continually do work with, and you continue to put more jobs out to them relative to their expertise. Are these I'm just trying to get a sense of, are you just getting, are you working with the subcontractors as the jobs permit, or do these people that are kind of an extension of your staff, so to speak?
That's a good question. It's kind of both, but it's the first one. It's really depending project based.
Right.
So if it's electrical signs, I have subcontractors here in San Diego, but I have to say I do a lot of projects outside of the state. So Texas, Portland, and Utah, and we do a lot of apartment complex jobs, and I utilize, and I count them as my subcontractors, other Signworld owners, so I'll just reach out to them, provide the scope of work, and we'll negotiate a price, and we'll get the project going.
And that's
Yes.
more along the lines, I'm sorry, just gonna quick follow-up question. That's more along the lines because the company that you're doing business with is also based in those other states, and therefore you're helping them in utilizing the Signworld network in order to kind of facilitate that. Is that correct?
Both. So they're either located in that state, or so the biggest client that I mentioned earlier, they're actually out of Los Angeles. It's a private equity firm, and they buy kind of older apartment complexes, and a lot of them, they buy them in Texas, in Utah, and in Portland. So then I'll just kind of reach out to Signworld owners, and sometimes first year and a half, I never even met them in person. So just all through emails. And yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so Joe, subcontractors are a big part of every Signworld Owners ecosystem. So let's pass the question to Mike. Tell us a little bit about what you use subcontractors for, how you find them, what part do they play in your business today?
No, I mean, subcontractors are a valuable part of who we are. And I've primarily found them through other Signworld companies. I've got a Signworld company, Saber Sign, about 20 miles away. She shared with me who her subs were, and we don't use them exclusively, but we've started there. I've got an outside vehicle wrap installer, so when we have overflow, we can go there. I've got somebody who installs all my electrical signs. These are people I use on a regular basis, but based on the project. So this is not a one and done. You're actually forming a relationship, and so you actually build trust and so forth, and it actually becomes a very important part of the business.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Jeff, been in business for almost 20 years, and I know you still use them today. What do you use them for? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I would say if you were to look at my balance sheet, if you will, our relationships with subcontractors, although it's not on my balance sheet, obviously, would obviously be a big asset of our company. I believe it's almost intellectual property. We have one or two trusted, strong installation companies in every major metro area across the United States. So that for me, I could take on any project with 100% confidence that we could get it done anywhere. And then secondly, locally, like Mike, we do have a group of trusted vendors. We treat our vendors like customers. We treat our customers like family. So they get good treatment, and we have relationships where we're an extension of each other. But outdoor lighted signs, same company I've been working with for 20 years. I have a wrap install crew I use instead of, although we're 3M certified, it's better, just they're faster and better. So subcontractors and big part of the business.
Thank you, Jeff. Jack, your thoughts?
I think you've covered that pretty well.
Okay. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Nothing to add. Very well said.
All right, very good. Let's go to our next participant for another question. Mark, if you could take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
Mark Fagelman here on the north side of Houston, Texas. So looking to getting into this business, going through the journey, the exploration. And, my big question is, what are some of the expectations for somebody just getting into the business, and some of the key things to make sure that you're aware of you know, as you're getting ready to open? It's kind of a very broad question. It's really about, you know, going from the working world to transitioning into owning your own business for the very first time. And, you know, how do you do it?
It is a broad question here. So let's just kind of narrow that down a little bit. Maybe you can think about what were the key priorities that you might have had your first year in business, and what was your biggest surprise that you may not have been prepared for. So Jeff, I'm going to make
That's
you go
good.
back in time. Let's go back in time 20 years ago.
Yeah, one of the things, especially coming out of corporate America and you go to a small business, and especially our business is very activity based. And the more activity you have and the smarter you are about it, you'll make more money. So there's a whole rhythm change, which is very significant that you have to transition into. The other thing is that although you have all kinds of support from Signworld and other Signworld owners, you are at it alone. There's no one to point a finger at. And so you have to kind of get used to navigating that way. Like I said, there's a supporting cast, but it's a different feeling than corporate America. And then I think back to my first point, just to make it again, because it's important, it really is it's a fire hose approach. It's coming at you at first when you first start, but that has to be your approach out to the market because it is high activity.
What was your biggest unforeseen thing that you faced your first year in business that you weren't planned for?
I think I thought I was good at managing my time, Jeannie, and you just when it starts to stack up and it's across various buckets, administrative, sales, marketing, operational, whatever, learning how to manage your time and do the right things at the right time was a big transition for me.
Very good, thank you. Let's go to Mr. Mike, or Dr. Mike, I'm sorry.
All good. You know, thinking back to the original question, I think it depends on what your background is. If you're an engineer, if you're in manufacturing, your tendency is going to want to be, hey, let's understand how to make all this stuff. Let's understand our processes. And so the challenge you're going to have is expanding your skill set into the other areas you don't have expertise in. You're going to have to really broaden your horizon. You're going to have to really embrace sales. Or if you're in sales, guess what? You're going to have to figure out how to manage production, or at least understand inventory and all the other stuff that goes with it. Or if you're, you know, you also have to worry about bookkeeping, minor thing. You got to always keep track of the dollars and cents. So the actual things that you'll encounter as a challenge will vary depending on your own skill set and your own background. Probably the biggest challenge that I never saw, I don't think anyone ever saw coming in, was COVID. I mean, it definitely threw a monkey wrench into everything. 4 months in, I was looking at having $40,000 booking months, and I did 13. That definitely threw a monkey wrench into things. I would say the other big challenge I had was just really understanding the dynamics of people in the sign industry, particularly employees. Like, they're an interesting bunch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very good. Thank you. Sasha, your thoughts?
Kind of very similar to Dr. Mike. Sales, I've never been a natural salesperson. Right after college for 7 years, I was crunching numbers in spreadsheets. So never really had to communicate with people. But you have the great support of Signworld. Ken, I have to give him lots of credit because I took his class very seriously, and it helped me a lot to sell. And I kind of start liking it. I was naturally a little bit introverted and just had to step out of my comfort zone. And the fun part, once you make your second sale, you get your deposit, it gives you a little bit of confidence. And again, there's a lot of tools that Signworld will provide you with, and you just got to utilize them. And I know plenty of Signworld owners who, use them and have been very successful, and some maybe not as much. And through conversations I've heard, they're like, oh yeah, I should have done that. So I'd say sales, kind of like Dr. Mike. We opened in September of 2019, and slight mistake I made, I could have started my sales process a little bit earlier, which if you were to sign a contract with Signworld highly recommend just being all over sales, because you've got a great network of Signworld owners that you can utilize and outsource and use them as your subcontractors, essentially. And I did not do that. So once kind of realized, hey, I just signed a lease and I've got no sales, I have no clients, that's kind of hit me all at 100 miles an hour, like, oh, I better get things going. And that was fine, you know, just gotta follow the process, and the rest will come. So yeah, I'd say sales was the biggest part. Yeah.
Very good, Jack.
So, and one more thing to add, that's where I was going with this. You know, we opened in September of 2019, and then right around 2020 COVID. And luckily by that time I was blessed to have 2-3 clients. My biggest client today was one of my first clients, and he pretty much carried me through a few months of COVID. So just kind of to reiterate again, so yeah, sales, no business.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sasha. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, just kind of going back to your question originally, Mark, you know, having a job for most of our lives, that's our security. We get the paycheck every Friday. So you realize at some point in life that job is not secure anymore, and so you've got to look for a different security. That means potentially being your own business owner. But that then means doing the homework to figure out if you fit, finding the right organization that want to be part of, having the courage to pull the trigger. And then realizing in Signworld, we have a lot more freedom than we do as a franchisee. If you join a franchise, you're going to follow their rulebook under their culture. And so you're moving from a job to somebody else's culture. So the beauty of Signworld is you get to make it your own way. You get to take our business in the box that has alternative assembly instructions and customize it to your style. But then from there, you've got to figure out how to wear all the hats of an entrepreneur, how to delegate out those duties to others so you're not wearing all the hats forever. That's hopefully a temporary thing. And you got to learn who all the potential customers are and how all the different ways that signs can be made. So there's a learning curve that honestly never ends. And that's the fun of the business, that you can do products forever and ever and ever and still never have to duplicate day after day after day the same thing.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Can you not only handle, Mark, all of this busyness that everyone has pointed out already and wearing all the different hats, but at the same time, are you a capable executive to go climb the ladder and go after the next biggest customer, as opposed to getting hung up on what's just coming in naturally? There's the difference of just handling things and growing your business.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. Okay, let's go to our next participant. Luke, if you can take yourself off of mute and share where you're from and give us your question for the group today.
Yes, hi. I'm in Montreal, Canada, but I'm planning to relocate to Port St. Lucie in Florida. So it'll be a new area for me. And so getting to know businesses that could use the services of a Signworld company will be, I think, my biggest challenge. And I'm an engineer and have done international sales for most of my career in a family business. So small business I'm familiar with, multiple hats I'm also familiar with. My biggest problem will probably be the networking and delegating of some jobs. I'm not trying to do it all myself. That's the biggest challenge. So one of the things of small businesses that we hear a lot that fail is because of problems with cash flow. So I was wondering how you, as new companies, recent and Jeff, 20 years ago, how you handled cash flow in years between having to pay your suppliers and collecting the money from your customer.
Well, Luke, I just did a $15,000 deal in Montreal last month. Sorry about that, but it went pretty good. Hey, one of the things that's very important, and it's the beauty of this business, between the deposits and pay upon completion, especially when you're starting off, when you're working with smaller companies, is the cash flow. And it's one of the things you have to stay on top of. As you mentioned, we've been in business for 20 years, which, you know, we came in right after the .com crash. And then we were right at that $800,000 or $900,000 mark right in the middle of the 2007, 8, and 9 recession. We actually grew through the recession, but one of the reasons why is we were always collecting our cash, getting our deposits, which you'll be trained to do inside. They'll even help you with a script and a dialogue to do that verbal contract up front with your client. You'll be able to collect the money upon completion. As you grow your client base, you'll have companies that'll do terms with you, but you'll always have those other companies that'll be deposits and paying quick. And then the other thing is you have to collect your money with the same kind of class that you make the sales with, because the last thing that happens before they order again from you or refer you is you're calling them to collect the money. Sometimes when you're small, you panic a little bit and you act like an idiot when you call somebody to collect your money, and you just lost the possibility of a repeat and referral, because you've heard many times already, I'm sure 85% of your business, and ours still is that way, comes from repeat and referral. So the key is to stay on it. We have never had any bad debt at all. I bet over 20 years, we probably have had $6,000 of bad debt over 20 years, which is unbelievable. So
Very low.
Yeah, you got a great collection ratio there. Nice job. All right, Sasha, how about you? You're on mute, Sasha.
I was saying, yeah, I have to agree with Jeff. Beauty of this business that you collect 50% upfront, and that helps you to manage your cash flow. Obviously, there was a couple times, I applied for credit cards. I have a credit card just in case, that's, reserved plan B in case I need, and I think I had to use it maybe twice, and that was the very beginning. But as long as you're on top of it, there shouldn't be any problems. In 3 years, one bad debt, and again, I went against my own rules, collecting the 50% deposit, and I learned a mistake, and I learned on that. So, and it was just very beginning, did not wanted to make a sale, and the gut feeling was telling me, don't take it, because he did not want to pay 50% deposit, and I still did it. And 4 days later, a lot of change orders, and I had to stop and say, hey, would like to get paid something here before you change the order again. And he said no. And at that point, I had to just say, walk away. I'm like, here's 90% of free work for you, and I'm out of here. And I never looked back again, and never went back against my own rules not to collect 50% deposit unless I have developed a very good relationship with some of my clients. I have another big client, slightly less than the first one I mentioned. We're on on net 30 terms. They always pay on time, unless it's a very big project when they're building like a big showroom and deposit is needed, then we'll just renegotiate separately 50% deposit. So it just takes time, but that's why you have 50% deposit. So it really helps to keep the cash flow going. And then as time goes, then you just kind of have to be careful who you give the net 30 terms. And so far in 3 years, it's about $3,000 in bad debt.
Great, thank you, Sasha. Dr. Mike?
Well, there's a saying out there, cash is king. Cash is what keeps things moving, especially for a small company right when you get going. One of the things I do every morning when I wake up, get on my phone, look at my bank, how much cash do I have in there? I probably need to get out of that now that it's a much better position. But it's something you always keep an eye on. And like everyone's saying, the deposits are huge. Don't be bashful. I mean, you're going to be investing in materials, labor, everything else. And let's say somebody walks on you. If you got your deposit, at least you're covered. You may not make as much money, but you're not going to lose anything. Think of it as an insurance policy. And most customers are willing to do it. I've got a handful of small customers, handful of customers I extend credit to. The company I'm doing all the vehicle wraps for. We do a wrap. I send them the invoice. 10 days or so later, I've got a check in full. They've earned that over time. There's some large companies I also extend credit to. I just did a full vehicle wrap for a trailer for Texas DOT. They're not going to go anywhere. But they say, hey, we can't pay a deposit. It's like, I know, not a problem. I know a government agency is not going to go bankrupt and stiffing. So it's like anything else. You make a business decision based on the customer, based on the project, based on the history of what you've had, and you go from there. That's part of the beauty of Signworld is it's your business. You get to make that call. The scary part is it's your business. You get to make that call.
Well said. Thank you. Jack, your thoughts?
Can I just add one thing? Sorry. There's a book called Profit First, and it helped me a lot with cash flow management. I'll just summarize it very quickly. You've got your income account where all your deposits are coming in, and I've got my cost of goods sold account. Right off the bat, I take the X amount and move it to cost of goods sold amount. That's not my money. That's money for the material. I've got my sales tax account. That's not my money. That's government's money. Right away, I move that money. So it really gives me a better understanding how much money is mine, how much I get to keep, and then how much I need to distribute to my suppliers. But I'll just say Profit First, highly recommended. Great book.
That is a great book. Thanks for suggesting, Sasha. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, for years, we recommended $20,000 in working capital as a startup number. Several years ago, we moved it to 30, and because of higher income or higher rental numbers and higher payroll, we moved it to 40,000 in startup expense. But at that, I think at any of those numbers, most Signworlders would tell you that was enough at their time to cover the working capital they needed. However, the worst thing you can do first year in business is being cash short. So while it's our official number, we always encourage you to put some extra monies into your working capital account to begin with, so that you have extra monies, hoping not to use the extra, but at least you have it there available for you. And then from there, it's, as they've all talked about, is watching your money, collecting the deposit, collecting the balance due, staying in front of the money, knowing where your bank account is at any given time.
Ken, your thoughts?
As everyone has said, if you collect the 50% deposit and the balance due upon completion, and you make a reasonable profit, and you don't get greedy and take it all out for yourself, and you start to build a cushion of cash in your business, when that big project comes along and you have to finance it, that cushion is there. I never had to go to outside money. I always had enough money to handle a big project.
Very good. Thank you. All right, time to go back to Joe, who I see has got quite a few very good questions in the chat box. Joe, I'm going to ask you to select one of those and share your question for the group.
Gina, if I can, before you start that, I'm going to show a couple of slideshows in the background. We'll continue with conversation. The first slideshow shows some of our operations inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. Second slideshow shows what is a sign, not only what we can make with our initial equipment, then going to the outsourced projects and going to unusual things that you might not think of as a sign. The third slideshow goes to our wall of fame, showing some of the larger projects Signworld Owners have done over time. So those go on in the background while we continue with questions.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, Joe, if you can, let's see, it looks like you are off of mute. Yeah, pick one. If we got time, we'll come back for another.
Well, I think this is one for everybody, and it sounds like it's more of a sales oriented thing, but it sounds like, you know, at least part of a successful model is, you know, seeing if you can get in the door. Like I think Ken had said about the, you know, Bank of Hawaii, and Sasha had said about, you know, very large institution that had you know, that they were acquiring properties. So did you see a need? I mean, did you see the need that, or how did you first, you know, I guess, establish that relationship? Or, I mean, I just want to understand a little bit more about that from your experience. And obviously, once you do a good job with them, and then you establish that relationship, and then it can grow, but especially with larger institutions.
Very good. So go ahead, Ken.
Okay, so Joe, your question was, how did I get Bank of Hawaii as my largest customer?
Yes,
the
sir.
answer is the guy literally chased me down the hall. I was in the bank in the cubicle with the home mortgage broker. And as he was asking me questions, I answered loudly, I talk loud, that I was in the sign business. And the guy in the next cubicle was in commercial banking. and had a project where he needed a sign that says this project financed by the Bank of Hawaii. You've seen those at construction sites. That's what he needed. So as I was leaving, he literally chased me down the hall and said, "Can you help me?" And I started with him and I satisfied him, and he introduced me to others in the bank. And I ended up doing business with many, many, many different people in the bank, at the retail level, at the corporate headquarters level, at the people who handled the vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. I ended up shipping signs as far away as Guam and California from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Right, right. Thank you very much. So it sounds like even just being out there in the community and
Yeah. But I'm sure that Sasha will tell you the same thing, how he got his largest customer. I think they chased him. And Jeff, how did you get Zurich Insurance, or do you have a customer larger than Zurich?
Well, I mean, Zurich Insurance, they hired us to do 3 12 by 18 no parking signs. And then they said, oh, by the way, do you do this? And then a few weeks later, do you do that? And they turned into probably a $500,000 to $750,000 a year customer, just one right after another like that, you know. And
but did they chase you in the beginning, Jeff?
yeah, I mean, they called us. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, they found. I think they at that time Yellow Pages, guys. You remember those? But it would be yeah. They found us in the Yellow Pages. So.
But the key is doing a good business. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sasha, your biggest customer?
It was through BNI, Business Network International. It's a referral networking group. I highly recommend it. Got hundreds of thousands of dollars in business from that. But it was just, you know, they call it one-to-one. You try to kind of just meet as many people as possible in your networking group and understand their business. And sat down with one of the guys. He's a life coach, and kind of told him about my business. And he told me, I don't think I can help you with this, but my brother is in real estate. Maybe there is something. And, you know, and he was kind enough to make a very warm introduction, and really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. But I took the call and kind of explained him what I do. And he said, I think there might be something here. Can you do ADA signs? Sure, I can. Never done them, but sure I can. And next thing I know, he introduced me to the CEO of the company, and we hop on the call and kind of told him a little bit more about Signworld Network and how we can do projects outside of not only outside of California. And that was the really selling point for me, without me even knowing, because next thing I know, he's telling me about the projects in Portland and in Texas, and that was it. And that's how it all started.
That's great. Thanks, Sasha. How about you, Mike? How do you find your customers, or how do they find you?
You know, it's a combination of things. BNI has been phenomenal. That's how we found Salt Electric. We're going to do all those vehicle wraps for. Google pay-per-click has been wonderful. One of the more interesting stories is our bank, which is a large regional bank here in town. They reached out to me and said, hey, we looked at your website, everything looks good. I'm still relatively new as a company. And it was like, hey, we want to do a project up in Fort Worth. I know you're in Austin. Can you do something in Fort Worth? I was like, oh, sure. I'm part of this business alliance. I got people up there, all good. But full disclosure, the president of your bank just moved in next door. And when I say next door, as in we share a property line. And we actually had a time scheduled for them to come over that Friday. And here's the funny part. I go, Steve, by the way, thank you for the referral. He looked at me, goes, Mike, it wasn't me. They found you on their own. So it's a small world out there. So between the chamber, pay-per-click, BNI, you just got to get out there and talk to people. And here's the other thing. You just got to respond. So many sign companies just screw up customer service. So when they get someone who actually answers the phone or the email or however they communicate and provides a quote in a timely manner, you service them in a timely manner, you deliver what you say you're going to do, it's amazing what happens. Next thing you know, kind of like Jeff was saying, well, can you do this? Can you do that? I mean, now I'm doing all the signs for our bank in the whole area, and that's going to be a pretty significant customer. But it starts something small. Well, small in this case, $20,000 order, but it just expands out. But getting into that customer is the hardest point. But you do it by execution.
Right.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, any thoughts to add?
My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway with 200 locations. It started with the hours decal for one location, a $40 sign. And my asking them who's the contact that takes care of all the other Subways in the area. It was an office that was about 6 blocks away from me, 2,000 square feet. The guy there was responsible for $250,000 worth of signage a year. Subway changes every single sign inside and out every 4 years. They change their logo, and every single sign in the operation has to change. And once they're cycled on a certain time, and I was doing 3 or 4 every week.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's go to our next participant. Mark, if you can go ahead, if you're muted, unmute your line and share a question for the group today.
I get a second question.
You do. And if you don't have one, we got extras from Joe. So don't feel like you have to come up with one if you don't have one. But
Oh,
yeah.
no. It's all good. So I'm watching, I'm kind of really enthralled, listening through one ear and watching all these videos that are scrolling by. Could you talk a little bit about the startup equipment and, really when you open your doors, what you advertise that you do and the capabilities with the equipment that comes with your startup package?
Okay. Sasha, let's start with you. What did you advertise as far as your capabilities when you first opened your doors?
Well, I would advertise pretty much everything except business cards and brochures, things like that, because I knew that I could, whatever I can do in-house, I can outsource through Signworld Network. So my objective was to learn. I think someone in Signworld said first $100,000 is a really learning experience. And in terms of the startup package, we've got our large format printer, HP 365 latex, laminator, and a plotter, and that was plenty to start with. It gave us the opportunity to make some of like basic signs, not even basic signs. I mean, a lot of the signs that we're doing for apartment complexes, we're still utilizing the same equipment. So I shouldn't even say that, but it was a perfect startup package to get us going. And then I think the second year we purchased a laser cutting machine, and that gave us an opportunity to kind of outsource less in terms of non-illuminated signs, and improve gross margins.
Very good. Thank you, Sasha. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I think the package we get from Signworld is pretty darn good. I went ahead and upgraded to the rollover table, and I'm really happy I did. It just brings another set of capabilities, particularly for a small shop, where one person can do a lot of different things faster than they could otherwise. Now, we did end up in year 2 buying a roll-to-roll laminator, primarily for all the vehicle wrap stuff we were starting to do. And then this year, we bought a laser, which we've already used quite a bit, and then a CNC router whenever it shows up. The other thing I bought right off the bat, talking with Ellen McKinstry with Saber Sign, who's 20 miles away, she had picked up a panel saw. And she goes, Mike, the one thing I'd recommend if you ever do that, make sure it cuts in both directions, because she only got the one that cuts up and down, and it really limited her capabilities. I was actually able to find one that's for under $1,000. It was an old Home Depot one that served us quite well.
Very good.
The other thing I would say is you will buy more power tools than you ever thought you'd ever own in your life.
Very good. Thank you. And hopefully you're using those at home too. Jeff Miller, how about you?
We actually did over $2 million with the original package that came with the Signworld package. Now, it wasn't the same exact equipment, but it was a roll printer, one laminator, and a vinyl cutter. We didn't bring in routers or flatbed printers or lasers or engravers, which we all have right now, until the demand for it was so great that the money we spent outsourcing that work Because you could spend $40 a board to get something routed by a third party. That you could do that a lot of times before you pay for your $50,000 router. So we weren't very equipment happy. However, we did every kind of sign that you could do. We just found partners in the area, and that original package took us a long, long way.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Mike?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. I read it, Mike. Jack,
Yeah.
sorry.
The original equipment, we have operations over $1 million. Jeff talked about doing over 2 million with just original equipment. Some never buy any more equipment. That will do all the two-dimensional print graphics. All the things you're seeing on the slideshow right now are all coming from that, at least for the in-house, and then shortly it'll start showing the outsourced things. Having the equipment to make everything to begin with would be a lot bigger investment, require more space, and a steeper learning curve. So we have a roster of manufacturers that will fabricate the individual things for you till you're ready to get into that heavier production and decide whether you want to bring in some of the other production later on.
Very good. Thank you. Ken, any thoughts from you?
No, I think it was all well said.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, let's go to our next guest. Luke, if you can take yourself off of mute and share a question for the group today.
So my other part of the concern of a small business is having employees and depending on them to do the work they're supposed to do, especially in this post-COVID time of employees not really wanting to work as much as they used to. How have you found the challenge of employees, especially the more specialized ones, of graphic artists and things like that?
Thank you. Let's start with Jeff. You've been in business the longest. Tell us how you found your employees. How difficult is it in today's climate, and how are you managing that?
We typically like to hire people that know people that we know. We just hired 2 people in this segment. Both people are probably a couple of the best hired. We've hired 5 people in the last 16 months. And that's been the big window of horrible, whatever. It wasn't easy, but the people are out there. And we typically, as I mentioned, 9 times out of 10, I push real hard on my personal contacts to think about people that they know that might know somebody that might know somebody. And it's almost a joke. And seriously, it is almost a joke because I say that a lot on my Facebook. And you just have to make it part of your business, and that is the recruiting part. You have to make it part of your business. I would never recommend stop recruiting and then start only when you need somebody. Always be looking for good people.
Great suggestion. Dr. Mike?
Yeah, people are a challenge, no doubt about it. But if you get the right team together, and it took me a while to get the right team together, but once you do, you can really do some really amazing stuff. I found my first hire through Indeed. I happened to hit a home run. Guy was extraordinarily capable in every facet of sign making and sales and install. But it's a challenge. The good news is, especially for your first hire, it's not just you. You'll interview them, but then you'll pass them on to Terry. Terry will take a look at them and see if they really know what they're talking about, or if they're blowing a lot of steam. And then after that, it'll go to probably, I'm not sure how the current setup, if it goes to Jeannie, Dan, or Jack, and they'll interview and make sure that you really have someone who can work with you, because you're going to rely heavily on that first hire. You're going to be learning from them more so than they'll learn from you. And so having that right relationship, which means when you hire that person, you're not necessarily hiring on skill set, though they have to have it. You need to make sure you can work with them, and that there's a trust between the two of you. Because if there isn't, and I've heard this horror story, it always ends in disaster. But if you can find the right person you can get along with, and you're building some really cool stuff, and they're having fun, guess what? You can really do some cool stuff. And then expanding with the staff from there. Yeah, if you know people, it's the best way. But Craigslist, Indeed. I talk to my Grimco driver all the time. Well, I think this Jack says, give him $100 every time he brings somebody in for an interview. Because Grimco drivers talking to every single sign shop in the area. Grimco is one of our top suppliers. So there's a lot of ways to skin it. But yeah, your people make your company. You give it the strategic vision, they fulfill it.
Very good. Thank you. Sasha?
My first hire was through Craigslist. I've had a decent success using Craigslist. And my first hire is still here, almost 3 years. It's been great. We've taken care of him. He came from a little bit of smaller sign shop. Well, he's been around for 15 years, so he's kind of actually gone through different kinds of bigger and smaller sign shops. My management style is a little bit kind of I'm using from tech company. I don't try to micromanage. It's more project based. Hey, you're a responsible person. I trust him, and you know what you need to do. And I think he really likes that. I don't think he's ever had that before, and I know he's been poached before. I've overheard other sign companies reaching out to him, and he didn't actually. One time he didn't know that I overheard him, but I heard him say that, hey, I've been taken care of here. I like working here, and I don't think I want to go anywhere else. So I think building the right company culture and sustaining the right people, because your team is everything. Because if he leaves tomorrow, things might slow down for me, and I need to get back on hiring. I think one other thing I want to say, I think it was Jeff who mentioned it. Always hire. I think I went through this period. It's like, oh, okay, we've got the right person. Let's stop. And then if they leave, then you got to start this process again. Worst case scenario, you just say no. But having this inflow of resumes coming in, I think is very important. Just store them in file and have them there. You can always reach out. Second one, also reaching out to your local Signworld owners, because sometimes they have a great applicant, but it's not the right time for them to hire. And I've had where local Signworld owners like, here's a couple of applicants that weren't right for me, but I think they're right for you. He's been around for 10 years and I've been around only for 2 and sounded like a right fit. So there's many ways to hire people. But one lesson I learned in one of many, but in terms of hiring, to what Jeff said, just keep the ad running, because finding the right people just takes time, and you don't want to kind of start when you already need one.
Very good. Thank you, Sasha. Jack, any comments to add?
There's no doubt that this is a tight job market, as tight as it's probably ever been, but yet there are people out there that want to come to work for you because you run a more professionally run sign company than most of their competitors. They want to work on newer equipment. They want to be appreciated. So the good news about the industry is that it is more of a career, not just a job. And we have Signworld as the original employee from 10 and 20 years ago. If you hire carefully and nurture, they're not leaving. And in today's world, you want to make the most amount of money with the least amount of employees, the least amount of turnover over the career of your business. Many of the franchises you look at where it's more of a transient employee, by the time you're done, you've gone through hundreds of employees over the course of the time.
Very good. Ken, any thoughts?
Yes. As Jack alluded to, the beauty of this business, again, is very few employees. So look at it this way, as we've said, that that's the bottleneck today. That's the choke. Well, if you have a business that doesn't require a lot of employees, that in and of itself makes life easy. So let me give you an example. Joe and Mark and Luke. Let's fast forward to the day you want to retire. And let's just make up a number. Let's say you want to sell your business for $2 million. Well, here's what a $2 million Signworld looks like. And by the way, we've already been here. We've had several resales at $2 million and more, $3 million, so on. But a $2 million Signworld is one building. It's 14 employees. It's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And it's 80% of your gross annual sales coming from your top 20 customers. 14 employees to sell a business for $2 million. For you to make 25% benchmark profit, for you to make $500,000 a year, 14 employees. But look at a franchise, look at a service business. You're not talking one building, you're talking 4 buildings. You're not talking 14 employees, you're talking over 100 employees to sell a business for $2 million. Do you want to go through in this second stage of your life? Do you want to go through that human resource nightmare? Because to end up 10 years from now with 100 employees, that means between now and then, you're going to hire 400 people, 400. You're going to spend most of your day in the recruiting and training mode. You want to think about that real carefully when you are looking at businesses. What's it going to take manpower? What's it going to take manpower? The other theory I have is this, that if we have an unemployment rate of 3%, 5%, well, that means that 95% of the people who are working are not looking for a job. They're not going every day to Craigslist and the other websites for job openings. So what I teach all the time is to our Signworld owners is reach out and touch someone. Always be aware of good people out there and go right up to them, touch them on the shoulder and say, hey, if you're ever thinking about a job change, I might have an opportunity for you. Why don't you come on over one night after work and let's talk about it. The best employee I ever hired was a restaurant manager. And he didn't like the hours. He didn't like the hours. And I just one day said to him, why don't we get together and talk? This is not rocket science, folks, other than your first employee who is going to be an experienced sign maker. After that, ask Jeff, you can hire almost anyone as long as they've got a good attitude and that they're going to show up on time.
Very good, very good. Well, I see we are at the top of the hour and I want to be very mindful of our owners' time that they've given us today. So Dr. Mike, Sasha, and Jeff, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be on this panel. We really appreciate you all very much.
Thank you.
And thank you. And to our participants, we really appreciate your interest in joining in our session today. We look forward to those continued conversations with you as you work through this discovery process to see if this is the right fit for you and the next chapters in your life. Joe, I know we're talking soon. I got noted the questions that you didn't get answered today, so we'll talk through those on our next conversation. Luke and Mark, same with you, and wish you all a great rest of your Wednesday. So thanks for tuning in today.